Hey, welcome to the latest episode of Inside Pima County with Supervisor Rex Scott. And we are fortunate for this podcast to have two staff members from our Grants Management and Innovation Department. We have the director, Ken Walker. And then we have Dorothee Harmon, who is the head of one of the divisions dealing with grant development.
Correct.
Okay, so Ken and Dorothee, we really appreciate you taking time out of your workday to come and talk to us about the valuable work that your department does on behalf of the people of Pima County. We always like to start these podcasts by asking our guests to tell us a little bit about their professional journey and how they came into the positions they currently occupy.
Sure. Thanks for allowing us to be here.
Of course.
This is a great opportunity, Rex. So I came to Arizona from Montana, and after going to school in Montana, came down and actually worked on a wagon train with delinquent youth
Oh my
for
gosh.
3 years, right? And so, but then I've really been working in the nonprofit world for since about 1985. And until about 5 years ago, when I decided it was time to see what would happen at the county, and enjoy the last multiple years of my career working at that level, because I'd never worked with government. So I've done a lot of grant writing, a lot of program development, a lot of program oversight in the nonprofit world, working with people that, a lot of youth work, and also working with adults with disabilities, with serious mental illness, and working against violence in school systems as well as in the community. So that's where I come from.
So you've got a real hard scrabble background in terms of knowing what different organizations have to go through in terms of writing grants and then trying to get them awarded.
Yeah, in fact, at over the probably 20, 25 years, I've either been Dorothee's sidekick or her competitor. So,
oh my goodness! Okay,
so that does happen, right?
Well, those of you who are on watching us on YouTube can see that they are actually getting along with each other.
Yeah. It was always a friendly competition.
Right, yeah, always. Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, Ken, before I turn it over to Dorothee, is the competition for grants in the nonprofit world radically different or more intense than the competition for grants when government departments are trying to get them?
Well, I think the difference is more the diversification.
Okay.
Right. We've got 279 active grants in the county right now. And so, whereas at any given time at Pima Prevention Partnership, we might have had 25 or 30. And they were mostly focused on our mission, either delivering services or creating capacity. And so here it's been wonderful to be able to have an eye and an ear into the varied work that the county is both responsible for and using grant funds to either fill gaps or try new things or just meet the needs of the community, directed in part by the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you for that. And Dorothee, tell us something about your work before you came to the county and what are the responsibilities of the division that you head up?
Okay. So I also started my career in a nonprofit called the Tucson Urban League. And there I also did grant writing for multiple departments within that organization, which was a community development organization. And in Tucson, and in the 90s, I was recruited to come to the county by one of my partners, who was a rather formidable and brilliant strategic thinking advocate for workers named Art Ekstrom, a community organizer and longtime activist who became the head of our local workforce system. So that was in 1998. Wow. I was 28 years old, and it was 28 years ago. I worked in community services, which now is community and workforce development,
Right.
mostly in workforce development, funding and grant proposal development and partnerships for a good 20 years, and then moved at R.K. Kelly's invitation to the Grants Management and Innovation Department that was forming to head up the development division. So my little team works with the different county departments, and we support the departments in identifying funding opportunities and determining a good fit and developing grant applications, and then processing the awards that come to the Board of Supervisors for acceptance, and tracking the progress of awards, tracking the data around the awards in our UNA grants management system, and then supporting departments with reporting and closeout.
Sounds like an extensive job, but just like Ken, you've seen it from another side, and wondering what are some of the lessons from your prior experience working in nonprofits that best serve you in this role?
Well, I do want to say that I do bring, we're in a central service role working with departments, so I bring my department experience to the work as well.
Oh, of course, sure.
Because I understand that we are in a support role and a customer service role. We are not in a bossy role with the departments. And then with the nonprofit organizations, I think, really understanding that there is very particular expertise that happens at the grassroots level that county government benefits from. It strengthens programs. There may be capacity that the government has that can support nonprofits, but it's a two-way street, and we are nourished by the community-based organizations that we subaward to with our federal grants.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Rex, if I
Go
can
ahead,
add
please.
on a little bit to that. So one of the places that we really find ourselves as GMI as a central service department is interacting with subrecipients. And that's something that we've really focused on again over the last year. And our history with nonprofits, I think, has really helped that. And so we're going out. We had 51 different community-based organizations that we were our subrecipients under different grants in FY26. So from June of 25 to from July of 25 to June of 26. And so our job is to go out and see that those different organizations are able to comply, especially with federal rules, and provide them support if they're not exactly matching to what the requirements are. And so we are currently doing about 20 visits to these different nonprofits. And it's been a wonderful experience for the folks going out there to learn more about what's happening in the community, how it supports the county, and how those activities support our ability to achieve the objectives of the grants.
So working with those subrecipients is not only positive in terms of making sure that we are fulfilling all of the grant requirements, but it also helps your staff to learn more about the work that those subrecipients are doing in the community.
Sure does. And it helps those subrecipients to gain the necessary skills and policies and procedures and fiscal stewardship, so that they can themselves become recipients of funding in addition to being potentially subrecipients.
So grants management and innovation is a central services department, as you said. Give us, and the two of you can split this up however you want, give us a broad overview of the structure and operations of the department.
So we, as Dorothee was pointing out, she is the division manager for development, and development is really the folks that have the most touch with the departments of the county in helping to understand what their their grant development needs are, and helping departments and offices respond to those needs through grant development. Then we also have our GDM grants data management team that is really one of their main responsibilities being an administrator for UNA grants. And a couple of years ago, for the first time ever, the county was able to procure a grants data management system. It's a platform, an electronic platform, where we can gather all the information from all the grants and put it into one place. So all the documents that are required for funders, all of the programmatic reports, the financial reports, that gives all of us an easy eye into what we're doing as a county, what our different funders are, how much we're receiving, what we're doing with that money, which is something that the county had never had before. And it works well with Workday, which is our financial system of record. And so, whereas Workday is our financial system of record, we really see UNA as the grant system of record that works well. And we also have the monitoring, analysis, and performance division. And so that division really is the one responsible for subrecipient monitoring and support, and really more of a quality assurance division. And so those three divisions work together to provide the best service we can.
Were those three divisions already in place? Or let me rephrase that. Have those three divisions been in place for a long time, or is the structure of the department changed in recent years?
It's changed in recent years.
Okay.
I actually came on board for the research and analysis division, and I thought that I was going to be a program evaluator.
Mm-hmm.
I did help Peeps write one survey, and we got great response to that from parents. But that's the only evaluation that we've been asked to do, and it's not because it's not happening. It just didn't seem like it was reasonable, activity for our department.
Right.
And so we transitioned that. We also had those huge inputs of funding from the Shelter and Services Program, as well as the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan funding, recovery funds from COVID. And so that was a combined of almost $300 million that this department was really had a big hand in monitoring over the last 5 years. Now, the what we call ARPA, or CISLFERF, which is the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, is about to end. And the county has done a great job of really spending that money in the ways that it was meant to be spent, and really helping to support both the county's health as well as the county's kind of economic platform over those times.
And just to clarify for our listeners and viewers, there were pandemic relief funds that came to all local governments under the first Trump administration and then the Biden administration during the COVID pandemic. But the Shelter and Services program was specific to the funds that we got from the federal government when we were bringing in asylum seekers who had been declared asylum seekers by the federal government, and those were the costs that we incurred for temporarily housing them in the community.
That is correct.
And thus avoiding street releases.
That is correct. And so so after that experience, we realized that that our divisions weren't exactly in the right place. We also found that we had some issues with not following through always with subrecipient monitoring, which created a situation where we had some findings with the Arizona auditor. And so we have made a dramatic push by establishing the Monitoring, Analysis, and Performance Division to meet those needs, that quality assurance needs, so that not only are we following the rules and the regs, but we're also helping our subrecipients to really gain their footing and making sure that they're following those rules as well.
And Dorothee, how is this revised structure, I won't say new structure, but revised structure based on how Ken has described it, define the responsibilities for your division better?
Well, it actually, the development division has changed the least since GMI was initiated in 2018. It was part of the original vision that the county needed some centralized resources to allow departments to, drop everything and go after opportunities, as well as document all of the reoccurring pass-through grants that are part of our grants portfolio, and nobody really had a handle on all of them. So our role has mostly stayed the same. We are actually, we still confer with the departments on the allowability of certain programmatic pivots or costs that maybe weren't planned, or that are, we're just not sure. Is this allowed? Is this consistent with the terms of my grant? Does my grant allow this? But we work very closely now with the Monitoring, Analysis, and Performance Division to actually go in and do checks of expenditures. And that's the team that, as Ken said, does more of the quality control on what's actually hitting our grant fund. So we really work in tandem, but the development division has stayed true to that initial vision that, we're a team of grant writers as well as the stewards of grant awards in the UNA system.
So it didn't necessarily change the scope of your responsibilities, at least not as much as that of the other divisions, but it might have changed how you interacted with those divisions.
Yes, and also, GMI migrated its accounting division into the finance division.
So you made reference, Dorothee, to costs, and we know that grants have both direct and indirect costs, and we try to address indirect costs through policies that help us to deal with them more efficiently. Talk about direct and indirect costs and why those indirect cost policies are important.
You want me to start?
Sure.
I mean, I remember the olden days of Pima County when we did not ever collect indirect costs. We never requested indirect costs. We all recognize that when the county accepts a federal grant, there's a cost associated with that can't be captured in terms of a one-to-one, this person is allocated here, but yet there's a burden when we hire new staff. That's a burden on the HR department. When we set up new accounts, there's an accountant that has to spend 10% of their time being assigned to that grant. So in 2018, with the advent of a centralized grants process, part of the vision was the county really needs to, come into a mature stance regarding indirect cost recovery.
Mm-hmm. I would add on to that. That's right. Like, direct costs are building the widget, are producing the service or the product, and the indirect costs are keeping the lights on, They're the costs that can't directly be tied one-to-one to a product or a service, but they're necessary for the organization or the project to continue. And so one way I've heard it described is if I am, let's say I'm a package deliverer and I get my time compensated for delivering a package, but I don't get any monies for my car because I use my car for other things. But I'm using it right now to deliver the package. So it's like if you paid me for my time, but you didn't give me any percentage of the cost of the wear and tear or the gas on my car. And so it's those costs. Indirect is those costs that are they're necessary, but not as easily attributable to the cost of running a program or doing the service.
So the next question I had is a two-part question, because again, your essential services department, of the departments in the county, which are the ones that you work with the most in terms of their pursuing grants? And do you ever go to a department and say, hey, we found out about a grant opportunity and wanted to make you aware of it?
I'm going to pass that to this expert right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yes
Yeah.
and yes.
Yeah.
So our frequent flyers are community and workforce development and health department.
Okay.
But
that rings true if I'm remembering board agendas.
Yes, but we do have, probably 20 or more county departments that regularly receive some grant funding. And the development division does provide monitoring and surveillance of opportunities to try to give advance notice to departments of opportunities that seem like they might be a fit for their mission or for needs that they've identified. And
how do you find out those opportunities yourselves? Are there newsletters or websites that are sent out to departments like yours in local governments around the country?
Well, the most important sources for Pima County are the two levels of government. So the federal government posts all of their grant opportunities in grants.gov.
That's got to be a big website to navigate, Dorothee.
It is a big volume, and we've missed a few lately. So I'm feeling a little. That's why I'm sort of making this face, because I don't want to brag about something that I'm not really doing. We have a new workaround for bringing some extra support for that surveillance of grants.gov because new opportunities are posted every day. And I was just observing to Ken on the way over that I don't think the emails contain every new post.
I bet.
We also do sort of inbound. There is no email for the Arizona state portal, but there is a central grants portal that captures maybe 75% of state agencies' grant opportunities. And so I have a calendar reminder to go check that. And I also expect each of my team members, when they are working with a department that, has state pass-through funding, to regularly check that portal as well.
And Rex, also the staff that are on the ground in the departments are the experts also. And so we do have monthly meetings with each of the departments, and sometimes they divide the portfolios across several weeks, thinking about health and CWDs, because you'd never get through all of their possibilities in a 2-hour meeting even, right? So they also have information coming to them that they can share with us about from their professional liaisons and meetings and other things. So it's really all hands on, to notice the funding opportunities and notice them in time, because sometimes the time between notice of a funding opportunity and due date is 4 to 6 weeks. And it seems like a lot, but it's not always a lot when you're got so many other things going on, other responsibilities. You need to get a program plan together. Even if you have an idea, federal grant writing especially is not for the weak of heart. It probably takes anywhere from 80 to 100 hours of dedicated work to put together a fundable proposal.
High scoring.
That's right.
Yeah.
So to that point, you mentioned that community and workforce development and health are your, to use your term, Dorothee, frequent flyers. And they've got people within those two departments who are experienced grant writers. But if a grant opportunity comes up for a department that maybe doesn't have the same level of experience, does your department help with those grant writing tasks?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. And even the ones that are pretty seasoned, there are just ways that we can support them and sort of build the application shell around their subject matter expertise. Okay. We're going to pay the most attention to what are the scoring criteria, what are the required components of the application submission, and put all of those prompts into a shell document or a template for both narrative and budget components. We're also often the application submitters, just because it's more efficient. The federal portals have sort of proliferated in the last 10 years. And so every agency has their own portal, and establishing credentials and maintaining those is better, I think, maintained by GMI, because we can do it on behalf of multiple departments in our central role. So we often help with grant submissions and with the actual, uploads within portals.
So we keep referring to you, as we should, as a central services department, but the people who are most likely to be listening to this podcast are our constituents. In terms of the public good that GMI does, speak to that.
So I would start with the subrecipient work, right? Because we are regularly talking with subrecipients in our role to help support their compliance. We're also sending out to our subrecipients every other month a grants news that gives information about any changes that are happening, especially at the federal level, as well as ways to make sure that people stay in compliance. Because as Dorothee and I have talked about, sometimes people believe that a grant is free money, and it's anything but. There are so many strings attached, and that's part of what, when Dorothee was talking about, maybe we don't always write the grant because we may not be the subject matter experts, but we are the experts in the grants management part. And there are so many different rules about what you can put into your budget, what you can put into your program plan, that it can be a challenge to get all of those parameters into one place and understanding it in a quick turnaround time. And so that's the other way that I think it ends up helping our subrecipients, is helping them have the financial as well as the programmatic underpinnings to be eligible to be a recipient themselves, or to continue to be a subrecipient.
I appreciate that. And it also seems to me, especially hearing from the two of you about your daily work, that anytime a department gets a grant, it enhances the delivery of the services and supports to our constituents that they're responsible for.
Would agree with that. And I think Dorothee had some ideas to tell your audience about some of the recent grants that have had some impact.
Grant-funded activity.
Yeah.
All right.
So, so one of the stories that I wanted to share was that in the Bighorn Fire in 2020, the watershed in the Catalina Mountains was damaged, and what flood control found was that the debris flows had shifted and were actually threatening some residents and some businesses in Oro Valley. And that was the beginning of a application and eventually an award from FEMA for a grant to raise the levees along the Cañada del Oro. So that's a grant that, that benefited the community, I think, pretty directly.
Certainly.
And I would also point to the work of Interfaith Community Services on West Ina Road.
In District 1.
In D1, and providing vital services for keeping low-income households in their homes with the lights on and with emergency food supplies if needed. And a lot of that work is funded through subawards from community and workforce development grants from Health and Human Services.
And they have, just to interject, Dorothee, that department, Community and Workforce Development, has such a strong partnership with Interfaith Community Services that one of the navigators in their department has an office that she makes use of in their facility.
That's great.
They've been very creative with the off-site or cross staffing.
No question.
with agencies. And another D1 agency is Impact.
Exactly, up in Catalina.
Yeah, also a CDBG subrecipient for their some facility upgrades this year, I believe. And then I wanted to also tell you about the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority's grant.
And that'd be a state grant, right?
That was actually U.S. Treasury passed through the state.
Okay, all right,
yes,
through the WIFA.
Through the WIFA,
right. Okay.
And that...
Sorry for all the acronyms.
That is helping to fund just helping. It's a part of the cost of converting the irrigation of the ball fields at Arthur Pack Park to reclaimed water.
Instead of groundwater.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So definitely public benefit happening directly funded by grants.
And you targeted all those public benefits to District 1, Dorothee? We couldn't be more pleased.
Well, I think the other thing that also indicates, like Catalina, sometimes people might think it's all, central Tucson.
Right.
And no, the grants that we are looking for are to go countywide,
yes.
And maybe they're plopped in different places at different times. But the idea is to really reinforce the quality of life in Pima County, not just in the city of Tucson.
So I think both of you have done an exceptional job of telling us about the structure and operations of your department. You've also talked about how, in the process of being a central services department that helps other departments to get and make use of grants that you've benefited the public. Let's wrap up with this really broad question, and both of you can speak to it. What are operations or responsibilities of your department that we haven't covered in this conversation that you think is important for our listeners and viewers to hear about?
If I may start, just to talk a little bit more about, you talked about changes. The other change that had been made is that Kaisley Cohn, who is our division manager for the grants data management, came on board GMI to run a training team. And then the former director, R.K. Kelly, as we were bringing on what used to be called Amplifund and now is called Unigrants, the system, asked her and that team to really take on being the administrators of Unigrants. And so that was a real change, and Kaisley's done a wonderful job with her staff. And the other thing that we've been able to do, keeping in mind the training part of it, is that one of her staff has developed a wonderful new employee orientation that really gets you, that's complementary to the Pima County's orientation to new staff, but it's about 2 weeks of getting really informed about what specifically grants management innovation does with and for the county, and our roles. And that's just been a wonderful thing to watch blossom. And I think it's really helped our staff feel more settled when they came in. We also decided that with the separation of the finance portion of the group, going back to really where they could get the most support in finance and risk management. I made the decision that we didn't need a deputy director, that I had 3 very high performing division managers, and why not put that staffing in positions to really help the work. And so we were able to add a couple of positions to really make sure that we were meeting the county's needs from the ground level up. And so I think that those are the things that I think we can be additionally proud of.
Tremendous. Dorothee?
And the only thing I would add is we do a lot of fire drills, a lot of like responding and reacting to emergencies. And we love doing that. We mostly thrive on it. But we also want and have undertaken this at this New Year's for bureaucrats time, this fiscal year, New Year's, to try to develop a department by department prospectus, analyzing what are some of the core needs, opportunities, and risks in grant seeking and cultivation for our department. So we're working on compiling that, but we have some interesting findings, and we do like to reflect with departments on, where grants can go from here.
No, I'm sure they benefit from that reflection as much as the team within your department does. Thank you both so much for being so generous with your time and knowledge, and very grateful to you both for sharing this time with us. All right.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for watching or tuning in.